Who is the best influencer boxer? So this is my first pound for pound list that I've made. And I think I want to make one after every new boxing event that we have in the influencer space. So since we just had Misfits 04, I think we're due for a pound for pound list. Now this list is going to be based on a few things, but it's mainly going to kind of follow the same format that Mams Taylor used in his pound for pound list. It's going to follow star power, level of opponent, level of ability, and level of activity. And instead of doing only 10 fighters, I think to make the video a little more interesting, give a little more fighters in the mix, I'm going to do a top 12 list. Okay, at my spot number 12, I have decided to put Deji. Now, Deji, since his Floyd Mayweather fight, which wasn't a great performance, it was against one of the greatest boxers of all time. But if we just leave that performance out of it and go look at the Fuzi performance, it was a great performance. Everything that he did wrong in all of his other fights, he did well in this fight, applying pressure effectively, slipping on the inside, great, pacing himself, not tiring him, gassing himself out, great. So, that's kind of why I put him there. But again, level of opponent isn't amazing. So I think I think he's a good pick for 12. Now at number 11, I've decided to put Alex Wassabi. Now I wanted Alex Wassabi on the list somewhere, but I couldn't put him below Deji because at the end of the day, he beat Deji. And whether Deji would beat him now, it doesn't really matter because the rematch hasn't happened yet. So at this point, I think this is a good pick for number 11. I like him on the list. If you go back and look at that Deji fight, his first professional fight, or his first fight in general, he was applying effective pressure with good technique, moving Deji off his spot and easily outworking him in the clinch. Good performance. Excited to see what he does against iDubbbz. Now at number 10, I've decided to put FaZe Sensei. And some people might be thinking, why is he so low when he pretty much beat King Kenny? I'm not sure if he's ever going to fight again. He could be retired, and he's also a little bit older, and he also did lose to King Kenny, even though it was very controversial. He did lose to King Kenny, but just going off of his skill, one thing I don't like he doesn't throw enough. He doesn't throw enough. I think the jab of King Kenny did kind of put Sensei off a little bit, but he doesn't throw enough. He should throw more. But when he does throw, he has big time power in his hands, and I like that from him. So I think number 10 is a good spot for him. And number 9, I think I'm going to put Waleed Sharks. Even though he did lose his last fight by getting knocked out, if you look at the first 2-3 rounds, he was wiping the floor with Dean. I mean, that left hook was finding a home every single time he threw it. And he made the champ look like a chump, for real. And he deserves a rematch, and he'll get the rematch if Dean is up for the challenge. But he really needs to work on keeping up the pace, not kind of falling asleep in the middle of a fight if you think you're winning, and also increasing your defense, your chin, your guard. Those are all things that he can work on. And if he works on those things, he'll win the rematch easily, and he'll be featherweight champ. So at number 8, I think I'm going to put King Kenny. If we're speaking about star power, he has pretty much the entire UK behind him. We're talking about skill. He has crazy skill. He has crazy technical ability, and he's also shown his power against DK Money. So those two things are there. But level of opponent, I'd probably it's kind of so-so, it's not great. He fought, the first 2 opponents were 2 of the most difficult opponents in YouTube boxing of all time. But DK Money and Ashley Roxu, not that great. But I think he has enough skill to put him at the number 8 spot. Okay, at number 7, I've decided to put Dean the Great. He won on a controversial stoppage, but Wally did turn his back to the ref, which you probably shouldn't do. but I think his mentality to be able to stay in that fight after being knocked down 3 times is impeccable, and that overhand right found a home and put him out. He just needs to work on, doing that earlier in the fight, actually being there earlier in the fight, getting to your spot earlier in the fight. Okay, at number 6, I decided to put Slim. I know what you're thinking. Slim out of the top 5? Yes. Reason being, he has been struggling against these heavier, less experienced opponents. So if he wants to fight KSI, who is heavier than him and very experienced, he will get put on his ass. Like, no question about it. So I think it's a smart decision for him to vacate and move down. But just judging on the fights that we saw last, Ryan Taylor to Tom Zanetti, these bigger, tougher opponents, Slim does struggle against. So he's going to need to go down to like, I don't know where he's going down. I assume middleweight, but I think it's probably the smartest thing for him to do. And if we're looking at his level opponent, these past 2 fights, it's kind of non-existent. I mean, Ryan Taylor lost to Swarms, and Tom Zanetti, this was his debut. And Slim struggled a lot. He got countered a lot. Some people even thought it was a draw. But so Slim made the right decision moving down, fight these smaller opponents. But he does need a challenge. So I think the next step is probably maybe Pineda or Jay Swingler. That's the next fight to make. Okay, so at number 5, I decided to put Logan Paul. If we're just looking at him as himself, he's like, 205, 6'3", with crazy reach. I think he should, he does well against pretty much anybody on this list. He, if not beats anybody on this list. He's a big guy. He has big power. And he just needs to utilize that a little bit more. He does have big-time star power as well, and his level opponent is probably the best we've ever seen from anybody. So I think number 5 is a good spot for him. Okay, at number 4, we have the one and only Salt Papi. I know I made some videos in the past about him, but I genuinely think that he is a top 5 now. All he needed was that one big win to put him in the top 5, and he got it. But if we're being honest, I want to see him against someone like a little bit higher in level of ability. And I've also want to see him see if he can go a little bit longer, see how long he can go, because we haven't really seen his gas tank be tested at all. I want to see if that can be tested in the next fight. But no, I think he has the speed, he has the power, he has the skill. It's all there. He's probably the one to dethrone the top guys. But I just think he's a good spot for number 4. At number 3, I'm gonna put Anisan Gibb. I think his performance against Austin McBroom has to be performance of the year and fight of the year in 2022. I think his pressure, his power, and his gas tank really give guys problems. We saw it against Taylor Holder as well. But what he really needs to work on is starting the fight as good as he finishes the fight. Because he'll start a fight not that great and then finish really good against a higher level opponent. I think that Salt Papi fight is there for the taking. I kind of go either way on that fight. It depends on the rounds. It depends on, everything. Depends on the weight as well. Yeah, I think it's a good spot for number 3, and I'm excited to see what he does next, whether it be on Misfits or another promotion. But yeah. I don't think my number 2 pick should surprise anybody. It's got to be KSI. I mean, he has the power, he has the explosiveness, and he has the gas tank. But the only thing that he doesn't have is ring experience and leveled opponents, I think FaZe Temper wasn't a very good opponent, but he was better than Dillon Danis. So I think this is a kind of a better scenario, that he's facing a better boxer than Dillon Danis, but he needs to fight at least 2 more times before he fights Jake. And who knows who those 2 could be. It could be Salt Papi, it could be Joe Fournier, it could be Tyron Woodley. But yeah, he's gonna need some more pro rounds, and he's gonna need some more leveled opponents. And I think he can, if he does do that, he'll be pretty much there, right on par with Jake. Okay, so my number one pick should not surprise anybody. It's got to be Jake Paul. No one's really done what he's done at the levels that he has done it. He put on a masterful performance against Anderson Silva. And say what you will about Anderson Silva, he beat a world champion fighter in Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. And no one's doubting that Anderson Silva beats Face Temper, even though he's twice the guy's age. You know, Jake has the boxing ability, you know, but he still has that pop in his punch. You know, he's not, he has power, but he also has the boxing IQ and the boxing knowledge to box with guys like we saw with Anderson Silva, like we saw him outbox Anderson Silva. And he's just a few steps ahead of everybody. Everybody's following him. And every time KSI takes 2 steps forward, so does Jake Paul. And it'll always be just barely out of reach for KSI until the fateful night that they fight. Okay, so that's going to do it for my pound for pound list. You know, thank you guys for watching the video. Let me know how you feel about the list in the comments. Look out for the power slap video coming out probably Friday or Saturday. And thank you guys for watching, and see ya. So since the last Misfits event, I think we're due for a new pound for pound list by all